افتخار ماضی نے کیا خوب کہا کہ اس سے منسلک ہونا بھی ایک سعادت ہے، لاہور شہر نہیں لاہور عادت ہے۔ لاہور پاکستان کا دوسرا بڑا شہر جس کی تاریخی اہمیت کسی سے ڈکی چھپی نہیں۔ لاہور شہر نے 23 مارچ 1940 کو قرارداد پاکستان منظور کیا۔ آزادی کی جدوجہد کے لیے لاہور نے اہم کردار ادا کیا۔ یہ جملہ تو آپ سبھی نے سنا ہوگا، جن نے لاہور نہیں ویکیا او جمیا ہی نہیں۔ لاہور لاہور ہے۔ تاریخی اہمیت کے ساتھ ساتھ لاہور شہر اپنی ثقافت، تہذیب، مہمان نوازی اور بہترین کانوں کے لیے جانا جاتا ہے۔ آج ہم آپ کو لے کے جائیں گے اندرون لاہور کی ایک قدیم حویلی بارود خانہ۔ حویلی بارود خانہ 18ویں صدی میں سکھ آرمی کے ایک کمانڈر جنرل نے بنایا تھا، جو اسے اپنے گھر کے طور پر استعمال کرتا تھا۔ حویلی کا کچھ حصہ گولہ بارود کے ڈیپو کے طور پر کام کرتا تھا اور کچھ حصہ رہائش گاہ کے طور پر استعمال ہوتا تھا۔ کمانڈنٹ افیسر کے گھر گولہ بارود رکھنا اس وقت کا معمول تھا۔ حویلی لاہور قلعے کے باہر سب سے بڑا ڈیپو تھا اور اس کا براہ راست قلعے سے سامنا تھا، اس لیے اس کو بارود خانہ کا نام دیا گیا، جس کا مطلب ہے گولہ بارود کا ڈیپو۔ فی الحال یہ حویلی لاہور کے ایک سماجی اور مخیر شخص یوسف صلاح الدین کی ملکیت ہے، جو اس میں مقیم ہے۔ صلاح الدین کو یہ حویلی اپنے خاندان سے وراثت میں ملی۔ جد امجد میاں کریم بخش نے اسے 1870 میں خریدا تھا۔ حویلی بارود خانہ پاکستان کی تاریخی آزادی کا مرکز بھی تھا اور یہ میاں امیر الدین کا گھر تھا، جو کہ ایک ممتاز بانی اور رہنما تھے۔ اس خاندان سے انڈیا مسلم لیگ، جو لاہور کے پہلے مسلمان لارڈ میئر تھے۔ حویلی بارود خانہ لاہور کے اندرون لاہور شہر میں ٹکسالی گیٹ کے قریب قلعہ لاہور کے سامنے واقع ہے۔ یہ شاہی محلہ بازار، جامع مسجد حنفیہ، پیر حضرت بابا نوگس کا مزار اور بادشاہی مسجد کے قریب بھی ہے۔ حویلی کو ثقافتی سرگرمیوں کے لیے استعمال کیا جاتا ہے اور یہ لاہور کے ثقافتی ورثے کا اہم نشان ہے۔ یہ لاہور میں بسنت کے تہوار کا مرکز تھا اور اس نے برسوں سے صدور سیاستدانوں، بین الاقوامی معززین کی میزبانی کی ہے۔ یہاں بہت سے اہم پروگراموں کی میزبانی کی گئی ہے، جیسے کہ میوزیکل ایوننگز، ٹی وی فلم شوٹنگ اور سیاستدانوں، اداکاروں اور موسیقاروں کے لیے پروگرام۔ فلم خدا کے لیے کے کچھ مناظر یہاں فلمائے گئے ہیں اور اس کے ساتھ ساتھ بہت سے فلم، میوزک ویڈیوز اور بھی بہت کچھ یہاں پہ فلمایا گیا ہے۔ پاکستان ٹیلی ویژن کارپوریشن نے اسے اپنی میوزیکل ٹیلی ویژن سیریز ورثہ ہیریٹیج ریوائیو کے لیے بطور مقام بھی استعمال کر رہے ہیں۔ حویلی بارود خانہ میاں سلی کی حویلی کے نام سے بھی جانی جاتی ہے۔ یوسف صلاح الدین کو لوگ کلچرل گرو بھی کہتے ہیں۔ حویلی بارود خانہ میں ہماری ملاقات یوسف صلاح الدین سے ہوئی اور ہم نے ان سے کچھ بات چیت کی۔
I grew up in a household where Sufic music especially was a very important part, and Qawwali also, and classical music was also very we used to have events in the house, like every Ramzan there was always a Qawwali night, and that was normally on the 27th 27ویں رمضان کی 27ویں کو یہ ہوا کرتا تھا۔ اس کے علاوہ from a very young age I have heard people like بڑے غلام علی خان come and perform in the house, and of course I grew up with Farida Khanum in the sense that I grew up, one of my earliest memories of my life is Farida ji singing here in the outside courtyard. I think it was my chacha's mehndi, And in those days, everything was very segregated. So in any way, the Mehndi was always a women's event. Now it's all changed and it's become a big party and people are doing all sorts of things. But that's the way it was. So I remember her, Iqbal Bano, Mehdi Hassan, Nusrat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab, Abda Parveen. Everybody has performed here. And then of course, when I started my program with Heritage, so that was about 13 years ago. And I'm still doing it with the Pakistan television. It's probably one of the longest running music programs in Pakistan television history. So फिर उसके बाद then of course then you know I discovered Sahir Ali Bagga, and so we started working together, and we still, I mean, you know, he does although he's become a big star now and he's very busy, but for Virsa I'm happy and I'm very grateful to Rahat Fateh Ali Khan Sahab and Sahir Ali Bagga and all my artists who who come and perform here. And we also then in the meantime we also discovered a lot more new artists like Sanam Marvi, for instance. Her first program was Virsa Heritage program, which was purely primarily it was Sindhi Sufic music, and of course a bit of Punjabi and Saraiki also, and so many others. So it just at some stage in my life, and I had quit politics, and I was involved in promoting a festival like Basant, which unfortunately we can't have anymore. Sad, but and then PTV offered me to do this, to do something, for PTV, and I started this program. And that obviously, because then I produce music, I compose music, I do lyrics, I do a lot of, it all came to me very late in life. I mean, I think it was, it was basically in my late 50s, 60s that before that I would never, maybe a couple of times, years and years ago, Nazia and Zohaib were staying here with me, and I made this one song for them, Tali De Thale, which was a big hit. And then after that, many years, it wasn't in my mind. And then with Ali Azmat, I made this, we were sitting one day in Atyagali, outside by the fire. And of course, he was with his guitar and I was humming. And then came Garaj Baras.
हवेली बारूद खाना में बहुत से मुअज़्ज़िज़ीन तशरीफ़ लाए, जिनमें हमारे बानी पाकिस्तान कायद आज़म मोहम्मद अली जिन्ना की बेटी भी शामिल है। यूसुफ साहब ने उनको कुछ ऐसे याद किया
जो मैं कभी नहीं भूल सकता, और मेरी लाइफ में सबसे I would say where I was completely, I don't know where I was. That was when Qaid Azam's daughter came to the Haveli. 2000. Was it 2004 or 6? 4. Okay, 4. Yes. And that was amazing because we went to have dinner at the food street. Then we came here, and I showed her all the pictures of her father and her aunt with my family members, and she was, and then I made her sit on the chair where Qaid sat when he came here. So it was a very emotional, very emotional. I used to smoke in those days, so I had a cigarette in my hand, and she looked at me. She had this amazing resemblance to her father, and even when she spoke, she sounded, that very strong, powerful voice. She had almost like a man's. So she looked at me and she said to me then, "I don't like you smoking, young man." So I laughed and I said, "Ma'am, so shall I give it up?" So she said, "Yes, give it up." So I said, "Ma'am," smilingly I said, "Ma'am, is that an order?" So she smiled back and said, "Yes, take it as an order." And believe you me that I quit smoking. I used to smoke almost 2 packets of cigarettes a day. Yeah, and my mother was, she was, I told her that this is what happened, later on. She said, "Tu main tenu keh rahi haan किन्ने सालां तो तू सिगरेट पीने छड़ दे ते तू मेरे कहने ते नहीं छड़े." मैं क्या तुसी कायदे इलामा इकबाल दी बेटी हो, वो कायदे आजम दी बेटी है, ओदी गल जिहड़ी है ज़्यादा जरूरी है मननी. So that was a very, very emotional time. We spent about 6-7 hours. She came here, then we went to an ice cream parlor and we talked a lot and she told me a lot of things, For one, I asked her, I said, बड़ा मैंने डरते, sort of, I was sort of also मुझसे ज़रा थोड़ा सा अदब भी एक था उनका. तो मैंने कहा, "Ma'am, people say that, there were a lot of differences between you and your father." She said, "Listen to me, young man. I and my father only had one difference of opinion, and that was my marriage, nothing else." So she plainly said that, of course, she was very much, whatever her father did, she was very much, she agreed with it. And
मशहूर शख्सियात में भारतीय अदाकार भी शामिल हैं.
That top one is when we did a tribute to Farida Khanum ji. And Sonia was my host. Okay. She was we co-hosted, and Ali Sethi did the singing. And that's another one. We had an evening with Wadat Rumi, so that Sonia, Rahat, myself, Sanam Marvi.
Yeah.
And then Nasiruddin Shah. I was selecting some verses from Iqbal. With Shah Sahab, then he recorded them also. And this is the very first program of Irsa where Nasiruddin Shah came as a guest and Rahat was performing. This was way back years.
And Sir Pili Niche?
That's Arif Mahmood, the photographer. Arif used to do this thing, a day in my life with Herald magazine. So ये उसकी कुछ तस्वीरें हैं, ये शान की भी, ये मेरी भी, 1-2-4 तस्वीरें और भी उसने उस इरा में खींची.
बड़ी खूबसूरत तस्वीर है.
This is Hina Nasrullah when she got the Pride of Performance last year and she came. That's Elizabeth Hurley when she came for Imran's hospital. And Arun and she stayed with me over here for 2-3 days and we had a great time. We had Rahat singing also.
Sir, Barood Khana Haveli की एक history है. And it is like 400 years old.
Yeah.
Haveli. So उसके बारे में एक आध interesting बात मैं बताऊँ.
Barood Khana Haveli basically जो है, this is when Rekha and Vinod and our dear friend who's passed away, 2 dear friends, Vinod Khanna and Prameshwar Godrej, and that's Sonu Walia and Kabir Bedi. This is outside the Haveli on the road. When they had all come to do a promotion for Imran's Cancer Hospital, when it had just started opening. And
Amir Khan.
There's Amir and Kiran when they were here. And this also, Ali Zafar I think is also there. हाँ, यहाँ मेरे पास ही है. And Imran and Sunil Gavaskar and this very dear friend of ours, and that's Amir again. That's Jemima and Jemima's father, and when they came to have an Imran dinner at the Haveli.
And that is with Lifestyle Awards?
That's the Lifestyle Awards, I think 2-3 years ago. That's getting a memento from the Chief Minister of Delhi and Muzaffar Ali Saab, and that's me and Muzaffar Ali Saab and Nasir. Muzaffar Ali has this amazing festival, Jahan-e Khusro, which he does at this place, which is called Arab Ki Sarai, and it's just outside the tomb of Humayun, and it takes a few thousand people. And then Abda ji, I took 1 year, and Abda ji and Sanam both. Where's Sanam? There she is.
Yeah.
And they both performed at this thing.
So sir, so nice of you. Thank you so much. आपको कैसा लगा correspondent से बात करके?
Very nice. I enjoyed it. I'm sure it's going to come out well.